Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about Topshelf. And Topshelf is a NuGet package that you can bring into your project that makes building, debugging, and installing Windows services just a breeze. So this tutorial is going to be pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it's actually going to make it a lot easier than the previous videos that I have in regards to Windows services. So this is not so much about Windows Service itself, but more about Topshelf. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to do is take a look at the Topshelf project website. And in here, you're going to find a link to documentation. And I want to jump straight into the code so we can start taking a look at it. So it's here somewhere. I think something like show me the code. Show me the code. There it is. So this is exactly what we're looking for without all this highlights. Let's not highlight anything. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is a lot better. Okay, so this is what we're going to be implementing. I'm actually going to copy and paste this code into our project, and I'm going to walk through every single bit of it. So let's go ahead and create a project here in Visual Studio 2019. Create a new project. And the project that we're going to be creating is just a console app. You can create a .NET Framework console app or a .NET Core. It really doesn't matter. So if you don't have it under recent projects, you just search console application. Spell it correctly. It's always helpful for some reason. I'm going to pick the .NET Core. And then in here, I'm going to call this, what did he call it? Town Crier. Town Crier service. Just give it a second for the project to build. And the first thing that I'm going to do is actually bring in that dependency. So I'm going to right-click dependencies, go to NuGet packages, go to browse, and then type in Topshelf. And this is the one that we want to bring in. Right now they have 8.83 million. Wow. So install it. Once it's finished, we can go ahead and bring in the code from the website. So let me go ahead and just reduce the size here a little bit. Close this down because we don't need it. And in here we have two parts. The program part of it. I mean, you can't put everything in a single page, but we're going to split just a little bit more because it's just a little more realistic. Let's go ahead and factor this class into its separate file. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this. Bring it to the project, and instead of just pasting up here, we're actually gonna go ahead and actually it would be outside, right? Instead of pasting it out here, let's go ahead and create its own file. So this class is actually substituting the Windows Service template that you would actually bring in when you're creating a Windows service. So this is going to be our service, okay? So this is going to be our Town Crier service. And we need a few references here. Let's bring in system.timers. Let's update the constructor name to match our class name. And once we have this, a couple of things that are important here. So you need to build the Windows service however whatever it is that you're building. But it's important to have two functions in your class, so then you can call those functions when you're starting and stopping the service. In this example, they just chose to call start and stop, but these functions can be anything you want. It doesn't have to be named start or stop. It can be named foo and bar, doesn't matter. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. So now that we have our service ready, okay, so our service here is a simple, we're declaring a timer, and we're setting the timer to elapse every 1 second. And when this event happens, we're calling this inline function here that is going to print a console. It's going to print this string on the console. Okay, and so let's go ahead and copy this right here into our program. And then we need to bring that reference using Topshelf. Remember, we went to the NuGet package and we brought that package down. And so now we simply need to add the using statement to our program. And this is called towncrier service, towncrier service. And so what this is doing right here, it's actually defining our service. It's saying that we're going to create a new service of type towncrier service, and we're going to build this service by creating a new instance of our class here. And so this is what I was talking about earlier. When we start the service, then we're going to call this function, and when we stop the service, then we're going to call this function. Like I said, you can call this whatever you want. So instead of start, we're going to call start foo, and then bar stop. You know, it really doesn't matter. Let's save it. Now, of course, we need to go and update here. So foo start and bar stop. You know, whatever you want them to be. We are also defining that our service is going to run as a local system. And then in here, we're setting a few attributes about our service. So when we check our services here, you see that the service has a name. Okay, this name doesn't have any spaces, and this is the service name here. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and change this. So town crier service, and then in here, the display name is the friendly name. So town crier service. Let's go ahead and put some spaces so it's more appropriate for a display name. Town crier service description goes here. Sorry, I can't think of anything clever for that. So let's just be really straightforward. So this is the service name. The display name, when you open the service, you have this name right here, and that's where the display name will go, and the description will go here. But that's going to be later when we actually install the service. For now, go ahead and minimize that, and let's simply run. So if you want to debug your Windows service, you are ready. You can go ahead and start debugging. All you have to do is make sure it's under debug, click start, and that's it. Our service is running. And if you remember here, what our service does is that every 1 second, it just prints that line right there. And so there it is, right? Which makes sense if you're doing a debug with console, right? You're calling console.writeLine. But let me go ahead and close this. When you run this as a Windows service, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So let's go ahead and just do something here. So if debug, let's go ahead and make sure that this line is called. But else if else. Let's do else. So if something else, if it's not debug, then we're going to do something else, and then we're going to end if. So let's go ahead and duplicate this here. And then I'm going to move this line. So if we move this line here now, we don't have IntelliSense, right? So we killed IntelliSense. So let me go ahead and just make sure that I don't do any errors. So when we're doing in production, when we do it as a service, let's make sure that when the time elapses, we are creating a file and we're updating the file with this line instead of printing to the console, because there is no console, right, under a Windows service. So let's go ahead and do a file. Let's go ahead and bring the correct library here, system.io. And then in this case, we're going to write all text, actually append. Let's append all text. It's going to ask us for a location. So let's go ahead and put on the temp directory. Let's call it towncrier.log. And then the text that we are going to save it in there. What is it asking for? The contents, right? So this is going to be string format, something like this. Append all text or append all lines? I think append all lines. Yeah, let's do append all lines. And in here, this actually needs a string array instead of just a string. Okay. Sorry, that was a little more complicated than I wanted to, but anyway, so let me go ahead and cut that from there, and I'm going to paste it in here. And so now when we're debugging, it's going to execute this line, but then when we have it under release, it's going to execute that other line. So go ahead and open my temp. I have a time log in there. Go ahead and get rid of that. Once again, let me just run it, and under the debug, we're going to see the console.write line, which is working properly. Let's go ahead and change this to release. And release is not as a Windows service. Release, we're still debugging, but now we're debugging under release, which is going to append online. So we want to test that as well, right? You don't want to send it to production. You don't want to install the Windows service and everything else just to find out that something is wrong, right? So let's go ahead and then run it this way first. So continue debugging. Console comes up, but as you can see, nothing here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our file. It created the file for us. Let's go ahead and open. And there it is. So I have this neat little utility called beartail.exe. You can download it. And what it does, it just refreshes. Every time that the content changes on the file, it actually refreshes here on this utility. So we can see that the file is changing, okay? Very good. So as far as I can tell, let me go ahead and stop this. As far as I can tell, our service is working properly, okay? So let me go ahead and delete this. And I am going to build this under release. And now that this is built, let me go ahead and open this in File Explorer, bin, release. And then we need to get to this exe here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to run command. And then I'm going to cd. Is that going to work? Cd? No. Just cd space this. Yes, that did. That worked. And then I want towncrierservice.exe. And what I'm going to do here is towncrier. I just pressed tab, and then he got me the towncrierservice.exe. And I'm simply going to call install. That's it. Our Windows service is installed. It's as simple as that. Let's go ahead and take a look at our service here. We probably need to refresh. So let me just start from scratch here, make sure that it picked up the new service. Town broker, let me see. Open service. Town Crier service. Can only be installed by administrator. So sorry about that. I was thrown away there for a second. So let me go ahead and close this, and I'm gonna do the command prompt here. I'm going to right click and run as administrator. And now let's do the same thing. CD, go back, CLS, Town Crier, tab a few times, install, and now we have it. So running transaction, Okay, the transacted install has completed. Very good. I'm going to press F5, and there it is, Town Crier service. Okay, I'm going to right click it. Oh, by the way, just to be sure, as you can see, we have no file here in the temp directory right now. I'm going to right click it and start. And now our service is running, and look at that. Our Town Crier file is being created, and let's see if it's being updated. Yes, it is. So as it is updated, let's go ahead and right click it and stop. As you can see, it stopped updating the file. And if we want to uninstall our service, we simply call uninstall. Service Town Crier was successfully removed from the system. Let's go ahead and press F5 on this window. And as you can see, the service is gone. So really simple, really straightforward. I know that there was a lot of interest when it came to Windows Service on the channel, a lot of questions. So if you have additional questions in regards to the Topshelf, you can always come and visit their website. They have lots of options when it comes to installing and configuring the service. And post in the comments area if you have questions. Maybe somebody else can help you, somebody else that tried something, or perhaps if I have time, I will reply as well. So thank you very much for watching. See you next time.